Welcome back to the Mid-Year Mitch YouTube channel. In today's episode, I'm here in Vetmasters lot in Virginia, checking out some project cars. We also built a front end in another video with some of their great fiberglass, and I wanted to walk you through some of these project cars I saw at Corvettes at Carlisle. Some of them are for sale on eBay as well. Give you a closer look, see what you're getting into if you're considering buying any of these cars. So be sure to stick around.
We are Corvette guys at heart, and probably more Corvette guy than business people. So we really like to make the stuff the way GM did.
Here in the back lot of Vetmasters, where we've got a little bit of a project boneyard going on here. A little bit of everything. Everybody's asking for project cars. So I figured, I've seen this car at Carlisle, and I've seen the red 67 over there at Carlisle. I thought we'd do a quick project car review on those. These were at Corvettes at Carlisle. I didn't get a chance to shoot video on them, but I believe this is I think it's a 64 or a 65. I don't remember which. But it needs a little bit of loving. Somebody started on this car, is what I believe. They screwed on a front end, and they looks like they sanded it pretty good. It might be mudded up, I can't tell. That's a little bit rough. And then I don't know if someone was fixing flares or going to flare it. So it has some decent-ish quarter panels on it, and I don't know what's under here. There's a part of a deck screwed on it. So this one is a little bit of a builder. We've got a taillight panel, which looks pretty nice, but it's also screwed in place. So the course of action would be to take this off, see what's underneath it. And I personally, these were cut off too. Someone may have been making a grand sport out of this car, because I believe the story. What I would do is peel off the quarters, put new Vetmaster quarters on it, see what kind of taillight panel this is, because if it feels press molded, you could probably use this one. It looks like it's got a decent valance under it. I would use that as well. And you could splice these in here. These pieces aren't that hard to attach, so I think you could get away with using this chunk of a deck depending on how it's seamed. It doesn't have the gutter, so you know, you have to figure out. It was bobbed right here. That's the problem. It was bobbed right here. So you could seam this piece in, or you could buy a whole new one. I know Dynamic Corvette sells them. They're maybe $1,000. I might go for the full one. I don't really like splicing, but if you want to build a hot rod, you could certainly splice it. And someone filled the dash in. They started filling in the holes. So that's not hard to cut back out if you want to convert that back, or you want to make radio delete or whatever. It needs the little triangular, or the little brace in the floor. It looks like it had some tunnel work. Looks like it may have been a blue car as well. It's got a 65 and 6 big block hood on it, which is one of my favorite hoods, but unfortunately it's had some damage. So if you're building a hot rod, find yourself a cheap small block hood, or even throw on 67 Stinger hood, which they sell here as well. Why did they sand this with a cinder block? Whoever was doing this was working hard. I personally would just put all new fiberglass on it. I'm sure they would help you out. Just pretend we don't do that. It's hanging over. As far as the bird cage, the windshield pillars look pretty good. That pinch welt looks pretty good over there. It's a little soft right here, but it's this far apart. That's pretty easy to fix. It's got a windshield sitting in it, so from what I can see, it actually looks pretty solid in here. Honestly, if the bird cage is in good shape on this car, actually the back one looks pretty nice. I think this would be a decent builder. This is something I wouldn't be afraid to tackle. Once you start peeling it apart, it's going to look a little worse. This quarter is in the same kind of position. I would just start fresh with a fresh set of quarters and it wouldn't be that bad of a builder. It's got nice doors, nice deck lid. So that is this car. Now over here we have a 69 big block car, which had a little bit of birdcage issues. They fixed that. They have a front end for it. I think it's the original engine. I think it's a single carb, but this would be a pretty nice project if you like C3s, but I really don't talk about those here too much. Now this is a 67 Roadster that had a bad day. Apparently it had a 454 under the hood that was making like 1,000 horsepower, and the guy was either showing off at a car show or didn't know what he was doing and rolled the thing. And I don't think he's in the best of shape right now, unfortunately for him. So this car, well, I'm just gonna say it needs a front end. Let's start off with that. Parking light panel destroyed. It's got flares. I'm not a big fan of flares. You got a good wall hanger here. Unfortunately, this door took a good grunt of the crash. Could you fix this door? You could probably get a skin and reskin it, because the 67 structure is unique. It has this little piece. You could graft this into a 65-6 door and make it a 67 door as well. But it looks like it was a silver car originally, silver with a black interior. Now the windshield was crushed. It was laying down, so they pushed it back up. And we've got a hole in the rear deck, unfortunately, by the antenna. The antenna punched a hole, probably rolled over, and that was part of the issue. This flare is completely missing, so it certainly needs quarter panels. The taillight panel can probably be saved. It's gonna need a little bit of work in here. And they mudded in, oh, they may have mudded over the bolts or the rivets for the valance. So I'd put a valance on it. I hate when people do that. They blend it, then if anything happens, how do you access it? How do you get to the exhaust? How do you put the body on the frame? How do you get the body off the frame? So I would probably fix that. This quarter is decent. Well, except for this. Over here it looks pretty nice. I'd put another quarter on it. This door operates well. So, oh, the deck lid does have a crack in it. So you might want to put a new deck lid on it, and the front end's definitely gone. So I believe he has a title and everything for this dude. I don't know if it's a clean title based on the wreck. It may not be. You can see the road rash on this thing. This was a legit running, driving, ripping car until that happened. So that's unfortunate. So if you're interested in this car or that car, check out Vetmasters. I'll put their information in here. As for fixing this car, the front end's trashed in my opinion. I'd peel that off, and I would you could probably try to porta powered fix this, use my windshield spacers to get it right. I might honestly put a good door on it to make sure that that pillar's correct. And I would probably suggest putting a whole new windshield frame on it, depending on what you find. This side doesn't look as bad, so you might just be able to replace that corner and some of the top. You'd have to look at it as you get into it. If you put a whole new windshield frame on it, you'd be sure it's good, but it looks good and solid. There's good steel in here, so I think you could probably get away with most of it, just replacing this corner on that side, which he has one provided, which I would love to have that piece. That's a nice piece. And replacing it the whole way down. So you might just be able to fix it with what he has provided. So it's a real 67 Roadster. It's a real wreck, but it's for sale. This 69's for sale, which has had some work done back here. It looks like it was wrecked, and they have put a new chunk on this side. They've got a good front end for it. This quarter looks pretty decent, but just needs a full restoration. We've got some more C3s back here if anybody's interested in the old Sharks. Got a few of them laying out here. So I'm sure some of this stuff's for sale on his eBay if you want to check that out. So I did go into Tom's eBay store, and I found he has the car for sale right now for $13,500. Let's see if I can find the description here. 67 Stingray convertible rolling project, originally silver with black interior. So I was right with that. Was a 327, 350 horse, 4-speed, rollover, frame solid. There's a little hole in the frame, so we gotta look for that. Front frame has some damage from the accident that he's repaired, so it could need a little bit of pulling. Not exactly sure. Floor's in good shape. No rust issues in the bird cage. windshield frame is damaged, which we saw. Original ones included. Body panels have extensive damage and will require lots of repair. Has an original 427 hood. Passenger door is good. Driver door not so good. Maryland title with rebuilt brand from previous repair. Alright, so there you go. You can read this more if you are interested. Let's look at the pictures to see if there's anything else in there that we wanted to see. So it looks like the hood was in good shape. That's something I really didn't mention in the other part of the video. You can see it's got some scrapes on it. See, when you see front ends that have damage here, that's hard to fix. Over here is hard to fix. You can get to both sides of this, but to keep this from coming back under that support, that's kind of tough. And I think you could easily fix this rear deck. You know, you could either make that by hand, or you could get a little scrap piece and you could fix this. That's really not a problem. So I think the back of the car is in pretty good shape. I would, like I said, cut that valance off and make it removable like it was. It's just easier to service. So this parking light panel's gone. It's got some of this lower piece, but that's in bad shape. I mean, the whole bottom of the front end is in bad shape in the hood surround. But this piece, that looks pretty nice. That's a trim tag. That piece is pretty rough. Apparently this car was in good shape and it was a no hit, or it had no flares at least. And then the guy that owned it put flares on it. So you can tell it was a small block car. One, because he said so, but two, you can see it has the U-bolts in here instead of the little caps. Big blocks had the caps. So I didn't pop the hood whenever I was there. I was afraid to touch it because I wasn't sure if it still hinged. So it's got a 67 core support in it. Looks like it had power steering. Steering box is still in it. There's the chunk here for the deck lid latch. That still has that. This side of the frame looks pretty decent. This is the side that has the hole. So I fixed plenty of them over here. I've put new caps on. They sell those, and you can make this. So that's really not all that bad. But either way, it's going to need some framework, it sounds like, just because it could be twisted from the wreck. And you can see here, this part of the hinge pillar is buckled a little bit. So I would probably buy the new lower piece just to make sure that you could cut this and bend it and heat it and tweak it, but it might be better just to put the lower piece on. I'm in the mindset I like to replace things, but if you have the time, you could easily fix that and beat that back into place. But just make sure you check your windshield. And I was saying about the windshield frame, I think you could easily replace from this piece down, and you would have a pretty solid windshield frame. I think this piece on that car is still okay. So it still has wiring and some of the stuff. And there's that 58. That was a pretty car. I think this one's definitely fixable. Nice hood. It's in nice shape. Both tags. Yeah, it was silver. Would have been a nice car. Unfortunately, it had a pretty tough life, but the floor looks like it's in good shape. These pillars look like they're still intact. No one cut any holes back here to change U-joints or anything. None of this got damaged. So that would be my biggest concern when a car's wrecked is the rear deck separating from the floor. And from when I looked at the car, it didn't look like it was. So I think structurally, it's, other than the windshield frame being tweaked and maybe a little bit with the front suspension, I think it's a pretty solid body. I know people are hot on 67 Roadsters right now, so I personally think that's a pretty good buy. They sell front ends. If you really were creative and you had the time, you could try to splice this and splice this. And if you wanted to keep the flares, you could, or you could just put new gills on it and parking light panels. You could try to cobble that together if you really wanted to. I don't like doing that just because I know the front ends are the most expensive piece of fiberglass to replace, but I think they're very important, and it's really not an area to skimp, especially if you're gonna have to pay for a paint job, because I know this car was painted nice and it was red, but unfortunately it's gonna need a whole paint job because pretty much every corner has damage. So You can make it whatever color you want. You can make it into a resto mod. You could keep it on this chassis and fix the chassis. You could use this chassis and convert a C3 chassis. There's a lot of options that you have. You know, it's all about what you want to build. And he does have a little video on here as well of him walking around the car, which you can check that out on eBay. And I don't think the other car is, here it is, JHN 317. Okay, this is the only one he has on there right now. He had this 64, which I thought was pretty cool. They put a 67 front end on it and 67 hood, and that kind of toughened it up a little bit. And then they had this 67 big block car, which I saw at Carlisle, which peaks up in my video you'll see in the next, get out of here, which you'll see in the next couple weeks. This was a pretty sharp car. I wanted to do a video on it, but it looks like it sold. It was, this car was off the road for a long time, and they got it running again. It has a replacement big block engine in it, and I believe they put one of their front ends on it. I don't know if this is the original hood or this is one of their hoods. They may have put their headlights in it. I think it needed a quarter panel, but it was a nice, yeah, see, I hate whenever people cut holes in these to change U-joints, but this is a pretty nice bodied car. It has a tank sticker too. That was probably one of the coolest things about that. It was a well-documented 390 horse car that later had a, I think it was a 68 CE block. This was a cool car. Wanted to do a video on it, but unfortunately it sold before I could get to it. As for the other car, unfortunately the 64 is not on eBay or whatever this one is. I think you could save this rear deck and the taillight panel. I would put new quarters on it like we talked about. Again, deck lid was nice, doors were nice. You could fix that dash to work. The front end, I would have to look at it closer. It felt like it was a little thick, but it may have just been what somebody sanded it with. You could probably save that in the hood if you, but I would just have to venture to see what it looks like. Again, I'm in the mindset of replacing, but I think honestly you could make that car work with what you have. And I know Tom has a lot of parts. He probably has some windshield trim, maybe some seats or column or some stuff to help this thing become a little more complete. Either one of these two cars, I believe, could become a resto mod or a hot rod or whatever. I don't think either of them are too far gone. This one, it looks a little rough, but once you start peeling back some of the layers, same with this one, and you start fixing a couple things, if you start with the back and work your way forwards, I think you'll be pretty surprised for how quick it comes together and for what you end up with. So either way, these are for sale. This is probably the more valuable out of all of these C3s hanging out in here. So if you're interested in any of those cars, I'll put his contact information there. You can check him out on eBay or through his email. That's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Show Vetmasters some love for giving me the opportunity to come out here, spend some time with them, and do business with them. And they're great people, and it's great to support good people that have a business in the United States that make stuff in the States.